I never thought I'd step into this place again, not like this. The grand Sterling Pavilion. Crystal chandeliers dripping light onto polished marble floors. Waiters gliding past with silver trays, the faint pop of champagne corks in the distance. Tonight, this place belongs to me. I adjust the cuff of my silk blouse, ivory, smooth as water under my fingertips. My heels click against the floor with a rhythm that feels deliberate. Like each step is part of a story only I know. From my private suite balcony, I can see the crowd gathering below. The same kind of people who once told me I didn't belong here. The same people who watched me walk away, ticketless, humiliated. My phone buzzes on the glass table. An unknown number. But I already know who it is. The voice on the other end will be familiar. Sweet, surprised, and maybe a little too eager to pretend the past didn't happen. I let it ring twice before I answer. Hello. Claire? Does it true? You're here. I glance at the golden plaque outside my suite. Sterling Pavilion. Owned by Claire Donovan. Yes, I say, slow and calm. I'm here. And this time, I didn't just get a ticket. I bought the whole venue. It was 5 years ago, a sticky July afternoon in Chicago. Back then, I was just 23, freshly out of college, working part-time at a bookstore and clutching to my chest the most precious thing I'd ever held, a ticket to the Women in Leadership Gala. It wasn't just any gala. Every major CEO, investor, and influencer I admired was going to be there. I'd saved for months, skipping dinners out, walking instead of taking the train, just to afford it. I thought this was going to be the night that would change my life. But the universe had a cruel sense of humor. My cousin Madison, glamorous, entitled, and used to getting what she wanted, called that afternoon. She forgot to buy her ticket and couldn't possibly miss it. Before I could think, she was already at my door, smiling with that rehearsed sweetness. I'll just borrow yours, she'd said, her manicured fingers already plucking the envelope from my hands. You can get another next year. My voice cracked. Madison, no, this is my... Oh, Claire, relax. You're not ready for this kind of room yet. That sentence lodged itself like a splinter in my chest. Not ready. Not worthy. I watched her walk away in her designer heels while I stood barefoot in the hallway, ticketless. The sound of the elevator doors closing felt like the universe shutting one in my face. That night, instead of networking with women I'd dreamed of meeting, I sat on my fire escape, knees pulled to my chest, watching the city lights blur through tears. Then my phone buzzed, a text from my grandmother, the one person who believed in me without conditions. Baby, sometimes the doors that close are the ones you'll own someday. Just keep walking toward them. Attached was a tiny keychain, a silver door key charm, in the mail for me. She wrote, "Hold on to this until you find the door that's yours." I curled it in my palm that night and made myself a silent promise. They would never take my place in a room again. The morning after Madison took my ticket, I woke up with that keychain in my hand. The silver charm pressed into my skin, leaving a tiny mark, like it was staking its claim on me. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to be the girl who begged for a seat at someone else's table ever again. I picked up extra shifts at the bookstore, then started freelancing on the side, editing, copywriting, anything I could learn. Nights were spent hunched over my laptop, the glow of the screen making my small studio feel like a cockpit headed somewhere far away. 3 months later, I met her. Evelyn Price, a tall, silver-haired woman with a voice like velvet and eyes that had clearly seen both war and victory. She came into the bookstore looking for a rare business memoir, and somehow we started talking. I told her about my writing, about wanting to do more. She handed me her card and said, "Call me if you ever get tired of being underestimated." I called her the next day. Evelyn became my mentor. She taught me about branding, pitching, negotiating. She made me read business contracts like love letters, line by line, until I could spot a hidden clause a mile away. It wasn't easy. I burned through savings. I had nights where the only thing in my fridge was a jar of pickles and half a lemon. But every small win, my first $1,000 client, my first project where someone introduced me as the expert, my first invoice paid in full without question, felt like laying another brick in the foundation I was building. And I didn't broadcast it. Not online, not to my family. When Madison asked how I was doing, I'd smile and say, keeping busy. No one needed to know about the LLC paperwork in my desk drawer or the fact that I was quietly buying shares in event spaces and hospitality companies with every spare dollar I had. By 27, I had a portfolio most people twice my age would envy. But it still wasn't about money. It was about doors. I wanted to make sure that no woman, especially me, could be told she wasn't ready for the room she had earned. The keychain stayed on my desk. Every time I closed a deal, I'd tap it with my finger like a gavel, sealing another piece of my independence. And then one afternoon, an email came in, subject line, Sterling Pavilion. Ownership opportunity. The very venue where Madison had taken my ticket. The place I had once been told I didn't belong. I didn't hesitate. The Sterling Pavilion smelled exactly the way I remembered, a blend of polished wood, champagne, and expensive perfume that seemed to float in the air like invisible silk. But this time, I didn't walk in clutching a paper ticket. This time, the mahogany doors opened because my security staff recognized me. I'd signed the papers 3 weeks ago. Full ownership. My name, Claire Donovan, engraved in gold on a plaque near the entrance. Every chandelier, every velvet chair, every gilded frame in this place belonged to me. The event tonight? The Women in Leadership Gala. The same one I'd missed 5 years ago. I had been tempted to skip it, to let the ownership be my quiet revenge. But something in me, maybe the girl still sitting barefoot in that hallway years ago, wanted to be here. I arrived early, slipping into my private suite on the mezzanine level. From up there, I could see the entire main hall. Guests began pouring in, sequin gowns, sharp tuxedos, voices mingling under the golden light. And then, I saw her. Madison. Still glamorous. Still with that same breezy entitlement in her smile. She was draped over the arm of some hedge fund executive, laughing at something he'd said. She scanned the room, clearly expecting to be the center of attention. When her eyes landed on me, the first flicker was confusion, then recognition, then something else. She approached, champagne glass in hand. Claire? Her tone was syrupy, like she was trying to place me somewhere far beneath her. I smiled. Hi, Madison.
Wow.
It's been forever. What brings you here? I let the silence stretch, savoring the anticipation. Work. Oh. She tilted her head, that fake curiosity barely covering her condescension. Who are you here with? I gestured toward the balcony railing, to the discreet brass plaque mounted just below eye level. Her gaze followed my finger, and I watched her eyes widen as she read. Sterling Pavilion. Owned by Claire Donovan. Her hand trembled slightly, and she set her champagne down. You own this? Yes. My voice was steady. Every inch of it. Bought it last month. Which means every ticket, every event, every room in this building. I let the sentence trail off. The hedge fund man beside her cleared his throat, suddenly unsure of how to stand. I leaned in just enough for her to hear me clearly. Remember that night you told me I wasn't ready for a room like this? Her mouth opened, but no words came. Well, I said, with a small shrug, now the room belongs to me. The gala's keynote speaker was calling for everyone's attention, but I didn't wait to see her reaction further. I turned and walked back toward my suite, my heels clicking against the marble, the same sound from years ago, only now it was the sound of ownership. From my balcony, I could see her still standing there, stunned, her reflection caught in the gold-framed mirrors. The tables were filling, the music swelling, and for the first time, I realized the power in not needing an invitation. I didn't expect her to follow me, but a few minutes later, there was a knock at my suite door. When I opened it, Madison stood there, minus the champagne, minus the smirk. She looked smaller somehow, framed by the doorway. Claire, can we talk? I gestured toward the seating area. The suite was warm, softly lit, furnished with cream leather armchairs and a walnut coffee table. It wasn't ostentatious, but it radiated quiet authority. She sat, crossing her legs, then uncrossing them again. I didn't know. About you. about this. I took my time pouring 2 glasses of water, setting one in front of her. That's because I didn't tell you. Her shoulders sank. That night, I was selfish. I shouldn't have taken your ticket. I leaned back. It wasn't about the ticket, Madison. It was about you telling me I wasn't ready for a room I'd worked for. You made me doubt myself. And you weren't the only one. Her eyes darted to the floor. I own this venue now, I continued, and I decide who gets in. But ownership isn't just about keys and deeds. It's about protecting the space from the kind of arrogance that once shut me out. She swallowed. So, what are you saying? I set my glass down. If you want to be in my rooms from now on, you earn it. No name dropping, no riding someone else's coattails. You put in the work. Volunteer for the causes you post about. Build something that isn't just a photo opportunity. When you've done that, when you've earned it, you'll never need me to let you in. Madison blinked, processing. And if I don't? Then you'll still see these rooms, I said, but only from the street, through the glass. There was no anger in my voice, just truth. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll try. I believed her a little. But more importantly, I knew that her trying or not trying didn't define me anymore. As she stood to leave, I added, "Oh, Madison?" She turned. "I never needed your approval, but I do hope you earn your own." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she walked out quietly. I exhaled, alone again in the suite. The music from below drifted up through the open balcony doors, a reminder that this was my stage now, and I decided who played on it. The gala moved on without a hitch. Keynote speeches, award presentations, the clinking of glasses. From my balcony, I watched women at every table exchange business cards, pitch ideas, and shake hands like equals. It was the kind of room I'd once dreamed of entering, but now I was the one holding it open. Later that night, after the last guest had left and the staff began clearing tables, I walked alone across the main hall. My heels echoed softly in the emptiness. The chandeliers above shimmered, casting little constellations across the floor. I pulled my phone from my clutch and opened my grandmother's last text, still saved after all these years. "Hold on to this until you find the door that's yours." From the bottom of my bag, I took out the silver keychain, the tiny door key charm still smooth from years of being carried. I placed it on the corner of the stage where the keynote speaker had stood earlier, just for a moment, letting the weight of it settle in the air. This building was my door now, and I had the keys. In the weeks that followed, I noticed small changes. Madison sent me a photo of her volunteering at a women's shelter. No hashtags, no designer gown. Just jeans and a smile that looked real. Evelyn, my mentor, laughed over coffee when I told her the story, then said, "I always knew you'd buy your way into the right rooms." And me? I stopped needing to prove anything. The revenge, the validation, it had all been a bridge to something better. Peace. Sometimes, when I unlock the pavilion's side door before an early morning meeting, I hold the charm in my palm for a few seconds, feeling the cool metal against my skin. It's not about the splinter of pain from that night anymore. It's about the reminder that I walked through the fire and came out with my own blueprint. They once told me I wasn't ready for this room. Now I own it. They took my ticket once, so I bought the whole venue.